something that's not as obvious to some fans, and that is the trainers. I know we talk about the fighters all the time, all week long, since the reports have surfaced that these guys are going to officially fight. Most of us believe it. A few of us do not believe it until it actually happens. But the bottom line is that most fans won't acknowledge the two trainers. Both of these athletes are world champions. You got Terence Crawford. His trainer is Brian McIntyre, who is more affectionately known as Bomac. Then you have Errol Spence Jr. His trainer is Derek James. So my question is, who has the better trainer, in your opinion, between Crawford and Spence? I'll give you my perspective, and then we'll break down why. Why this particular trainer is better than the other opponent's trainer. So I'll start with you first, D-Town. Who has the better trainer, Terence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr.?
I believe that Earl Spence Jr. has the best trainer because of what he done with Earl Spence Jr. and Charlo, what he's doing now, with Frank Martin and what he's doing with Anthony Joshua. So I'm not comparing, both trainers just off of one fighter. We seen Derrick James do things with multiple fighters, even if the fighter, as far as Charlo lost, but he's still undisputed. Even the loss that he had was still arguably, could be a tie or it could go either way. So me personally, I didn't see Derrick James do numerous of things with different fighters. So I would say that Derrick James is the more seasoned trainer than Bomac, and also I believe the other fighters believe the same thing. That's the reason why other fighters are going to Derrick James instead of going to Bomac. That's my opinion.
Yeah, on this one, I would definitely have to agree with you that the better trainer in this particular fight is Derek James. And, I'll say the reasons why, and then I'll let you tell me your reasons why. Um, One of the things that I like about Derek James, and many of the audience that's watching live now and definitely watching the replay of the live will attest that you all have heard me say on at least one occasion on this particular platform that I believe that the trainer's responsibility in the corner of a fighter is to provide two things: motivation and instruction. And I like how Derek James provide those two things: motivation and instruction. When Derek James encountered Errol Spence after the fight, when Errol Spence fought Ugas, the first thing I heard Derek James was saying, "Yeah, good fight, champ." But right after that, he went down to saying, "Oh, okay, yeah, these are some things we gotta go work back on when we get to the gym next week." Derek James was already motivating Spence that it's time to work on some of the things that he saw in the corner that Errol Spence need to improve on. And one of those things was obviously him taking that shot from Ugas when he was looking for his mouthpiece. We know why Errol Spence was looking for his mouthpiece. He said it in a recent interview with his girlfriend, I think on her platform, about his veneers, and he was more concerned about that. But Derek James was basically still giving him motivation and instruction, not just during the fight, but even after the fight was over. And the man won. Errol Spence actually won and unified the titles again. And he still was getting motivated and instructed by Derek James. So, you this is the reason why, I say one of the reasons why I say that Derek James is a better trainer. One of the second reasons is because Derek James have a history. If any one of you know, Manager Marty, you all know I look at behavior patterns. I look at long patterns of history. And Derek James have a long behavior pattern of building world champions. And he's done it multiple times, not just with Errol Spence, but even with Jamel Charlo. He has two world champions, unified world champions in his stable. And another thing that I like about, Derek James, and you can actually look at when Charlo fought Tony Harrison on the second fight that they had, and he fought Castano in their second fight. You notice how Charlo looked much more crisper, much more strategic, much more defensively sound in his second fights between Castano and in his second fight with Harrison. And that's because of good training, good coaching. They made adjustments between the first and the second fight. And that's one of the things I do like about Derrick James. He allows and creates strategies for his fighters to basically, you know, make adjustments in the ring in the second fight and even in the second half of fights, you know, while the fights are going on. So those are like the two or three reasons I would say that Derrick James is a better trainer than Bomac, and he has more of world champions, you know, basically that he brought up. And they're not just world champions with one title. They're world champions with multiple titles, and they've unified the titles in their respective divisions. So, Detail, tell us all, why do you think that Derrick James is a better trainer than Bomac?
Well, like I said, it's by proven by history. What he did in Errol Spence, career, and what he's doing in Charlo career, and also Frank Martin and others. And I believe that Derrick James is not a yes man. You know what I'm saying? Derrick James, he know his role. His role is to go in there and tell Errol Spence where he errors at, where his strengths at, where his weaks at. And like you say, even after the Dennis Ugas fight, after Errol Spence, showed the world that he was the man at 147, he still told Errol Spence, you know, uh, we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to work. So I believe that Derrick James, he know his role. Derrick James wants to see the best for his fighters, and I believe that Derrick James has showed it over and over and over again. So it's not, strange for us to say that Derrick James is a better trainer than Bomac, because we see the results when it comes down to the fighters that that Derrick James have, and only thing we see from Bomac is Terence Crawford. So if I had to put my money on somebody, I would put my money on Derrick James by being proven, in the sport of boxing, of him being a great trainer. And I can't put my money with Bomac because we only going off of one fighter, and it's Terence Crawford.
Yeah, and I want to point this out too, because somebody in the chat also said it, and I didn't want to go too far, but I'll say it now, and that is when Charlo fought Harrison in the second fight, and when Charlo fought Castano in the second fight, both fights ended in knockout. So the results were more devastating than they were when Charlo fought both guys in the first fight. Once again, talking about making adjustments in the second fight, and that's all about coaching. That's all about the strategy of the trainer. Hey, that's my family over there, y'all. So it's all about what adjustments can be made. Now, when we look at Bomac, right, he does train another fighter, up and coming fighter that we saw recently on ESPN, correct?
Yeah,
That
yeah, exactly.
what's this guy's name again? Davis?
You talking about Keyshawn Davis.
That's Keyshawn Davis, right?
Uh-huh.
Did you hear any instruction that Bomac ever gave, like Crawford or Keyshawn Davis, in their fights? I didn't really hear, like, I don't know if they put the microphone on him a lot, Bomac, but I really never heard him communicate with those guys often in the corner. Have you?
No, I mean, to me, it seems like that Bomac is relying off his fighters being skilled fighters for them to know what to do, in the ring. And I'm not saying that he haven't told them anything or whatever, but I haven't seen enough from him. I haven't seen too many trainer tracks of him. But we know what Derrick James is about because I have actually seen the trainer tracks of Derrick James, and when he told Charlo to get out there and get it. Go out there and get him. What you waiting on? I mean, Derrick James ain't playing no game. That dude is serious, So that's the reason for me. I haven't seen enough of Terence Crawford. I haven't seen enough of Derrick James. I mean, of Bo Mack. So this is the reason why I would have to go the route of Derrick James.
Yeah, and once again, I'm not saying it in the sense that he doesn't provide motivation and instruction for Keyshawn Davis, or he doesn't provide motivational instruction for Terence Crawford. I'm just saying I haven't really heard him. Most of their fights, obviously, was on ESPN, and I don't think ESPN used the lavalier feature for their trainers to talk in the middle of rounds during the rest period. I'm not exactly sure, and I do understand that both trainers, Derek James and Bomac, they both used to fight professionally. So both of them are coming with a lot of experience. It doesn't matter how many fights they won, how many fights they lost, because it's all about what you learn in those fights. And so obviously both fighters have trainers who have learned something about the sport of boxing where they can actually teach and train other fighters and bring them up to a level of championship competition and even in the amateurs. So we can't discredit these coaches that transition into professional trainers, and then they actually bring these fighters up from the amateur ranking all the way up to the professional ranking to the contention and then championship level. So, Bomac definitely has to get some form of credit for the work that he's put in, that he invested in Terence Crawford. This is not to discredit Bomac. I just want to know the reason of these trainers being in the corner, because here's the thing. When both of these guys get in there together, one of them going to get hurt or both of them are going to get hurt, and they're going to have to go back to their corners during the rest period, and they're going to have to rely on the motivation and the instruction of their trainers. And so that's the reason why I'm saying, hey, listen, let's ask the people, let's ask each other, who is the better trainer? Who is the more seasoned trainer? Who's the more experienced trainer? Because this is a fight that's going to definitely require the instruction and motivation of both trainers. One of these guys or both of these guys are going to get hurt in this fight.
Yeah, and like I say, some people' opinion might be a little bit different. They might feel like that both trainers are equal. But I tell you like this: at the end of the day, when it's time for Errol Spence and Terence Crawford to get in the ring, we're going to find out who's the more experienced trainer, and not necessarily. It have to all fall on the trainer's head because the fighter actually has to go out there and do what the trainer tells them. So if both fighters are in sync with the trainer, then it's going to come down to the abilities of the fighter, and it's going to come down to the instructions of the trainer. If both fighters are in sync with their trainers. So we'll find out, what I'm saying, for the people who might say they both on the same playing field, they both are, equal or whatever. It's all go boil down to fight night. And it's going to determine who's the best fighter, who's the best trainer.
Yeah, because as I always say in this business, good representation is priceless. And when I'm talking about representation, I must include having a good trainer, because you can be a good fighter, you can be a talented fighter, but if you don't have a good trainer, if you don't have good manager, you don't have a good promoter, or if you don't have one or all of those three elements to have a good team, it don't matter how much talent you have as a professional athlete, as a professional boxer, none of it's going to mean anything. So it's all about, you know, what the fighter is going to do to execute the game plan and strategy that these trainers put together before the fight even happened. And then, of course, it's all about making adjustments during the fight, particularly in the rest period, uh, when the trainers is speaking to the fighters. Someone in the chat made a reference to one fighter having one trainer and another fighter having three trainers. I believe that they're referring to Terence Crawford having more than one trainer, which we do know. Uh, I'm not opposed to having more than one trainer. Me personally, I mentioned this on the podcast on I believe that was either Friday night or last Tuesday, that just this Tuesday that just passed, and I basically was saying, it's all about having one voice in the corner. So it doesn't matter how many trainers you have in that corner. It's all about having that one voice. And I was talking about the fact that that's something that Devin Haney needs to improve on, because he has a great trainer in Yoel Judah. Then he has his father as the head trainer or chief second. So it's okay if Crawford has more than one trainer, but it still has to boil down to him hearing only one voice in the corner.